Adam Reese. Well, welcome back to Red Gym. I'm Adam Reese. I think we're live now. Anyway, today we're going to talk about strength and the secret sauce behind what's going on, Facebook. All kinds of things. You are live. I'm not live. I'm not sure. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay, so today we're live on this video right now. So if you have questions, you can post them down below. And if you are coming at this video at a later date and time, please post in the comments section hashtag team replay. And if you have any questions there, put them down below. I actually really like responding to questions because it makes this content thing a lot easier. But today we're talking about strength and the secret sauce behind how we decide what we're going to do at Grit Gym so that we can keep the joint healthy and we can increase the durability of the joint and we can actually be proactive in stopping an injury before it even happens. So it's really not a secret whatsoever. It's just housed in hundreds and hundreds of books that we've consumed over the last. I mean, we were adding it up the other night. It was like 1997 was when I got my first book on strength and conditioning, and I don't know how many I have since then, and conferences and different coaches that I've hired and different coaches that I've worked with over the years, and it's kind of just like wild to think about. But anyway, strength training. What happens? How do you do it safely? Because we know that after 50, appetite or after 50 recovery rates just plummet, right? I mean, they just, and I mean, that just incrementally happened over ages, but it kind of has like an exponential form to it, right? So at 9 years old, you recover really fast. A 99-year-old is going to recover really slow, whether that's short term or long term. Now, on top of that, when you're over 50, your appetite, especially your appetite for protein, starts to decrease quite a bit. So you're not getting the thing that could have helped you recover also. And on top of that, now everybody's basically accepted that strength training is good for you, which is fantastic because it really is. The trouble with that is injury rates have skyrocketed in the most controlled aspect of all health. So it really is an area where we should be able to keep you safe, but it just hasn't happened. So whatever happens there. So we're going to go through sets, reps, loads, and figure out how we can better manage those so that you can stay healthy for the long term, right? So it's really not all that complicated when you look at it from the standpoint of you only get so many reps and you have to think through the attribute of the muscle, right? So your muscles basically have endurance, they have strength, and they have durability. You need a durable muscle. You do. You cannot have a durable joint without a durable muscle. You cannot have a durable, a healthy joint without a strong muscle, and there needs to be an endurance component in there too. So how do we get these attributes of the muscle without damaging the muscle? Well, first of all, we need to figure out the thing that's not going to get you hurt. For instance, if you have pain when you're going straight up overhead, we are not going to be able to do a ton of stuff with your arms above your head. We're especially not going to be able to load that pattern. That would be very, very silly of us. The same thing with the low back. So how many reps can you do? Okay, let's start with reps. Okay, reps, we're basically going to go from 1 to 20. 20 would be the extreme high end. You're going to barely ever use this. Maybe 4 to 8 weeks out of the year, and that depends on the person and the exercise being used. 1 is also a number that you're barely ever going to use. And keep in mind that we're going to speak from the terms of sub-maximal loads, not absolute maximal loads. So an absolute maximum load would be like 100% of your 1 rep max for 1 rep. It might also be 80% of your 1 rep max for 5 reps. Those are both maximal loads. So I want you to think of when you're doing a weight that you know that you could do 2 more reps with, but you stop because you're smart and you value your joints, right? So 2 more reps left in the tank is one way to do it. So how does this work? So basically from 1 to 3, this is strength. 1 to 3 reps in any given set is strength training. Now, it does depend on the load that you're using. So think sub-maximal loads, think 70 to 90% of your 1 rep max. I get that I need to stay away from the numbers a little bit because I'm complicated it a little bit too much already. All right, so 1 to 3, you're thinking strength. You're training the nerves, you're not training the muscle. It's still all connected. 4 to 6, the priority here is still strength, but you're kind of getting into fatigue land a little bit. Fatigue is what is the catalyst for muscle growth. Remember, you only grow the muscle if you feed the muscle. Muscle does not grow because of how you lifted. Muscle grows because of how you fed yourself after the lift. So if you want to get bigger, you've got to feed it. If you want to get more thin, you want to cut lean fat mass. or you want to cut lean fat mass. If you want to cut fat mass, you have to eat for that. And if you want to gain muscle, you have to eat for that. So 4 to 6. All right, then you've got basically 7 to 12. Now you're getting into fatigue land. I'm way too dyslexic for this board not showing up on here. There we go. There we go. All right, so you're 7 to 12, you're getting into fatigue land. After 12, you basically got 15 and 20. So 15 and 20 reps. So you've got 4 different ranges that you could live in that can be beneficial to how you do your rep ranges. Nothing wrong with 20, nothing wrong with 1. You're just going to use them very sparingly. The majority of your life is going to be spent between 4 and 12. So 4 might be better for like squats, bench press, things like that. 12 might be better for like rotator cuff exercises, low back exercises, or fatigue building exercises like for a tricep or a bicep or something silly like that, right? So you're more like your emotional support muscle, let's call it. All right, so then you have sets and reps. Sets are basically going to go 2 to 5 for this category. So for the strength priority, you're basically going to do 2 to 5 sets. When you get down here to this like 7 to 12 rep range, you're only going to do like maybe 1 to 3 sets. You barely ever go over 3 sets with a 12 or anything over 8, really. And it's going to be extremely rare. Now, when you get up into the 15s to the 20s, you might only do 1 to 3 of this also. And that kind of depends on the exercise. So if like you're doing kettlebell swings for 3 sets of 20 reps, that's a lot of kettlebell swings and that's a lot of repetitions. But still, depending on what you're doing, you might use that. You're building a ton of fatigue there. Just kind of depends on the person and what's going on. Okay, so we've got reps, we've got sets, and remember, you're going to spend most of your time is going to spend that between that 4 and 12 rep range, and you're going to use sub-maximal loads. So you're never going to go super, super heavy, as heavy as you can, where you get to the point where you just can't even do one more rep. That is a very silly thing. If you were only to do one thing, if you're only going to take one thing away from this video, please take that away from this video, that we do not do maximal load sets on a regular basis. This is something that you do 6 to 12 times out of the entire year. Maximal loads, I mean, where you're really testing how much you have in the tank. So you might do that on your week 4 of your program. So let's say that you've done squats 1 day a week, every day or every week for 4 weeks. You're in the last day of your program. You're like, you know what? I've stayed very diligent with my lifting, with my sleep, and with my nutrition. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see what I have in the tank. I feel really good today. And so you go ahead and you've gotten cleared by your coach at Gret Gym because you asked the right questions. Hey, can I go ahead and go heavy today? And they say, well, let's just go for reps. And so you go ahead and you have a 5 rep max, and you're going to do 80% of that 5 rep max, and it's already out on your sheet, and you go ahead and you rip off 8 of them. Well, now we know that you got stronger. You did 3 extra reps, and we can calculate that out using math. So how do we load a muscle? You think, oh, well, you lift weights. That's how you load a muscle. Well, it's a little bit more than that, because there's different ways to load the muscle. We could add weight. We could slow the exercise down with time under tension. There's a lot of different ways that we can make an exercise harder. We can increase the center of gravity. We could take away a base of support, think 1 leg instead of 2 leg. There's a lot of different ways that we could load a pattern without making it, or make it harder without actually adding weight. But for right now, let's think from the standpoint of weight and time under tension. So we want to think sub-maximal load. So you could do one, like we said, you could do 1 rep, a 1 rep max, with 100% of your 1 rep. That would be absolute max. Whereas if you took 70% and you only did 1 rep, that's a sub-maximal load. So I want you to think sub-maximal for all your exercises. 98% of the time, let's say, you're going to lift sub-maximally. Now, the other area that you really want to take into consideration is your time under tension. When you spend, like let's say you're doing a squat, the more time under tension that you spend, the more IGF-1 you produce, the more human growth hormone you produce. Your muscle actually secretes fat-burning hormones, substances. We'll call them substances. Hormones is a little too specific. And muscle-building substances that are going to be healthy. They're a good thing. You want them. Your muscle is an organ. You want to treat it that way. And you want to respect the time under tension because you're controlling the weight. You're controlling the weight down. You're holding it for the isometric, and you're controlling it on the way up, not lifting like a jerk. That keeps your joint safe. So one thing to consider here is if you have an 8 rep, you have 8 reps, right? and you do, each one of them takes 3 seconds, that's 24 seconds total. Or you could do 8 reps and you could spend 5 seconds on them, and that gives you 40 seconds. You have an increase of 16 seconds per uh, per set that you have time under tension, all because you added 2 seconds extra to each one of your lifts, just by slowing it down, taking it under control, using a sub-maximal load so that you do not get hurt. Obviously, there is way more to this video than I'm explaining right now, but that's a little bit of just a crash course in load, crash course in reps, crash course in sets, so that you can better take care of your muscles and see kind of the behind the scenes of how we do this out here at Grit. We have a whole, I mean, we go through a ton of math picking out the exercise or the not the exercise, the load that you're going to use, the time under tension that you're going to use, and then from the assessment, we'll be able to figure out the exercises that are going to be appropriate for you. Like I said, you're not, if you have pain reaching your arm above your head with no weight, we're not going to do an overhead press by putting weight in your hand. We're going to do other exercises to work around that. And eventually, if you do certain things, the body is a healing machine. It will do what you ask it to do. You just have to have a certain amount of time that you're going to allow it to learn what you're asking it to do, and then it'll give you that thing. And then you'll have a kind of a cascading effect until the body has the time to recover, which, like we said at the beginning, is going to be a little bit longer than it was when you were 9 years old. Like, I remember one time I was still playing football, and I think I was 23, 24, and I went into this person to get some work done on my upper back because anyway, I'd hit this guy in a kickoff, and it didn't jack me up too bad, but it was a little uncomfortable. So I went in to get worked on a little bit, and the lady that was working on me goes, "Well, Adam, you're not 19 anymore." And I was like, I know, but I want to be. I want the recovery, so I would have bounced back from it probably when I was 19, but it took me a little bit longer when I was 23. So anyway, it's a little bit on load. Spend time in your set. Control the weight down, control the weight at the bottom, control the weight on the way up. Your body will thank you. Do your warm-up sets before you actually dig into your working sets. Your warm-up sets are just like if you're going to bench 135 on a bar, that's a lot. Let's say you're going to squat 60 pounds and you do a warm-up set, and your first working set is 40 pounds. So you're going to go 40, 50, 60, 60, right? And so you do 40, 50, 60, 60. You do 5 reps of each, 5, 5, 5, right? Well, this was actually your first working set, your 40 reps. So you should have done a set at 20, probably a set at 30, just to warm up a little bit, and then you go into your first, second, third, fourth set of working sets. So do that first. Always stay in your submaximal load. So like this, you're not going to do 80% of your 1 rep max with on 5 pounds. You're going to do quite a bit less than that. You probably should decrease that by at least 10%. And then focus on your time under tension. All right, when you're picking out your sets and your reps, we want to make sure that they are appropriate for the exercise that you're doing. 20 reps, you're hardly ever going to use that. And for instance, like if you're walking out of your workout and you're jelly and you just can barely put your arms in the steering wheel, well, that is, how do I say this? That's well over what you got out of the exercise that day. You didn't need to do that. So like, for instance, if 50 milligrams got it done, why would we take 120, right? You just needed 50 milligrams today, 50 milligrams tomorrow, 50 milligrams the next day. You didn't need 120, 120, 120, 120. That extra 70 was completely unnecessary. So there's no point in doing it. What we want to do here is think when we're looking at how we're going to actually get this strength thing, and I should make a video completely separate from this, like think how you would lift if you had to lift 3 days a week for the next 60 years. That would change how you're going to lift today. Everybody wants to lift for like 6 weeks, and that's fine. You should probably have short-term and long-term goals, but how would you work out if you had to work out for the next 60 years? And they're going to change over the course of that 60 years, but you're still going to think of your joints from that long-range standpoint. You're not going to sacrifice the joint today so that you can have a little bit better in 6 weeks. You're going to keep the joint today so that you can make this longer play on 60 years so that you can be stronger at that time and better off for it today. The wild thing is everybody's trying to sacrifice the now for 6 weeks from now, and they can't get the thing that they wanted in 6 weeks. Whereas we could have got it if we waited for 60 years is a little bit too long. But you're kind of getting into another video that I should make about this at that point. But anyway, reps, sets, load. If you're over 50, these things change. When you're 19, these things also change. It just has to be specific to you. But if you back it off and you do this smart and you lift to sub-maximal loads with a rep scheme that is built for you and what you're trying to do, and you can think with that long-term view, and you can lift responsibly for each rep, good things will happen. This actually gets there a lot easier. You get the body that you wanted with less pain, and you don't have to get injured in the process. If you're interested in working with us, go ahead and click the link below. We would love to help you out. The strategy session, that one-time free consultation, that is going to be packed with information. We're just going to be as helpful as possible. Obviously, we want you to sign up, but if you get done with that thing and you're just like, you know what, this isn't my vibe, hey, no harm, no foul. At least, like, our goal with that is to be so informative and so of service to you that you're still using the information that we give you years and years and years to come. So that's our mission with all this stuff. So anyway, it's a little bit on strength, how we pick the exercises, and the secret sauce behind Grit Gym's system. And I hope you got something out of that. If you did, go ahead and put it in the comments below. I'm happy to answer questions. All right. Have a good Tuesday, guys.